Hello guys. Today we're going to be looking at Introduction to Pokemon, the trading card game, and I am Turtleman's friend. Starting off with the basics, every deck needs energy, a win condition, Pokemon, and trainers. The pictures I have on screen are examples of those, like the energies, the fire, and the Charizard's the Pokemon. And to the right there is an example of like the trainers you would use, and a pretty standard deck list. But in order to make a deck list, you have to learn how to build a deck. Which there are important parts, which is pick a Pokemon. In this case, for the example, it is Roaring Moon, and which is like your base. And your support is in your trainers and other Pokemon, because the support for the deck would be like Greninja and Koraidon, or in this version, Greninja and Pheasant Deputy, which are both solid options. You want to have energies, but not too many energies, because too many can clog your deck and make it really bad. Most decks don't even run more than like 10 energies, if that. It's most important to start off with a skeleton list, because these lists have been refined for the players that built them. But at the start, they were not built perfectly like this. They added cards, they took cards out, they adjusted amounts and stuff, which is the skeleton list part. And they refined it till it was consistent. And I also wanted to show these, the bottom part says variations, because the one is a different variation than the other. They both function similarly, but they both can also play very differently at the same time. How to win is knowing the rules of Pokemon, like you can only use one supporter per turn. Your rule box Pokemon, like your EXs, cost more prizes. Your main strategies would be to take 6 prize cards as seen on the left, or there's other ones such as the alternative, which is decking out, is the one on the right bottom corner, because down here the discard pile and is empty and the deck has 0 cards. Therefore, next turn they draw a card. They will lose because they cannot draw a card to start the turn. And that's kind of it for the presentation. I'll show an example of how to build a deck though really quick. Alright, so I'll take you guys through an example of how to build a deck and maybe go for a couple battles with it. So first off, I'm going to start by looking through your cards, thinking about what you want to do, and picking a Pokemon or two to maybe build a deck around. Like for me, one recently that I wanted to make a deck around and make it work would be... Where was it? I lost where it was at, just give me a second. I'm sorry guys. I lost where I was at before and I just can't find him. Alright, for an example deck list, I'll go with... Fire types. Let's see what I have. This is a newer account. I ended up losing my old account, so I don't have everything. I still have a decent amount of things to play around with. Right, let's toy around with this guy. So you want to always pick your like, you know, base, as I said. and work to find like a good partner for it or stuff like that. However, I want to go find Fuecocos because the ones that I have are not the best for the deck. It normally doesn't matter, it's just my preference. Well, honestly, in terms of Fuecoco, this is kind of the best one we have, so it's fine. I'll just use some trainer points and get these real quick and ready to go. And I still want Onin fire types. Because when looking for partners with Pokemon, it's always good to look in like the same type stuff, where this one is not. Fire types aren't the best for like same type synergy. Like, there's very minimal like support Pokemon or stuff that can be used multiple times, which is why I don't like using fire types as much, but there are some really good ones that can be used. Like for a while I would mess around with this Macargo because it was solid. Victini is always a good option because it makes you do 10 more damage for each of your fire types does. So now the next important part would be supporting Pokemon, which the best way to look for those and abilities. And for a deck like this, I think that a Blood Moon Ursaluna would be good for like the late game when I need an attacker. I also think that maybe an Entei would be good. Yeah. And for other stuff, I'd maybe want to use like where did it go? Where is it? Like the like this Charizard too, isn't it? Actually, I don't need Ursaluna if I have Charizard because they work basically the same. Another good card for this deck would be Pheasantipity, because being able to draw cards is one of the most important parts of Pokemon, because if you can't draw cards, you cannot play the game. Which is why cards like this are so strong and so good when making decks. I also wanted to use I also wanted to try out something with the Terra EXs because they're solid little pieces, but they're not going to be a whole deck. For at least for me, at least. For some people, they function as the whole deck and they are the whole deck. For me, I just want to use them as little bits and pieces to work around. There's a nice little trick I'll show you later. Terrapagos, it's easily one of the best Terras around as of now. And I think it's really solid. And I don't know if there's really any other attackers I'd really want to use here, because everything's kind of solid, and I think maybe a Cleffa. Yeah, a Cleffa, I think. Because it's really important to have Pokemon that can support you and get you more cards. However, there's not as many options. I'm thinking I'm gonna go 6 energy, 6 fires, 2 of those, and then 1 of these, because these are all important and would all be useful, but it's not more than 10, and I don't want more than 10. Since I have Terrapagos, I can use a Stadium, which allows me to have up to 8 bench Pokemon as long as I have a Terra in play. And with Terrapagos in play, I can have 8 bench Pokemon, which is very important for the deck because it does more damage based on how many Pokemon you have in play. A copy of Counter Catcher is always good, especially for a 2 energy attacker because it's useful for getting that. Earthland Vessel is good for getting energies. Usually you want to use a Pokeball item such as, not Pokeball, Buddy Buddy Poffin, but since my Fuecocos are so high HP, I'm going to use 4 Nest Balls. Where is it? 4 Ultra Balls. And 3 rare candies in this deck, and a Super Rod. You can switch between 1 and 2 Super Rods. I'm just going to rock with 1, just try it out. As I said, you can always edit it afterwards to make it more refined, which is the important part about Pokemon. 1 copy of Stretcher. Great recovery tool. Um, where's Arvin? 4 copies of Arvin is a really good card because it gets you an item and a tool card, which are both extremely important in the Pokemon TCG. Which for this deck, I think that's some sort of, yeah, this will work fine because it's a band that helps me do more damage. A Team Evolution can be really good in this matchup. Not this matchup, but like decks. For Seal Stone, because I have Entei in the deck, so it makes it really useful for that. And back to items, I want to include 1 counter catcher. It's a dusting option, which are important also. Let's go 2 copies of Pokegear. And then my supporters, I need more supporters in the deck, but I don't have enough room. Or so it seems, because you would have to have supporters in order to win. And as you can tell, I don't have that many in the deck. I'm going to make room for 3 Ionos because I have 63, which is, you cannot have that many in an actual game. See, normally when I do that, I come back to here and think about, well, what can I get rid of? What can I do to change that? I think that the Pokemon lineup is fine. I think that I'm going to need this many if I'm going to get full effect out of this. I think this amount could go down to a 3. I actually keep this at a 3, go down to this at a 4. Then I go over to the energies and take a look there. I think I can cut down to 5 there. And you know what? I don't know if I'm going to attack it through Apagos as much, so I think that this is a solid deck list because it gets the job. Actually, as I said, always editing, always changing. It's just, yeah, what you do when building a deck. And so I'll run a game with it because I have time. So, and I'm gonna make this a longer video because I told my friend Tournament I would. However, TCG Live has been having a lot of glitches lately, so I don't know how non-buggy this will be, but hopefully it's not very buggy and you guys get good gameplay out of this, because it's very important. So, I started the game off with no basics, which is not really too big of a deal. When you do that, you have to shuffle your hand back in and draw your hand again. And your opponent gets an extra card when they start, which can be bad, but sometimes it doesn't really matter that much if they just draw a bad card off their extra card, but it can matter at times. Notice how I didn't bench Victini. I'm going to save it to see what deck they're running because each deck has its own strengths and weaknesses, and if I go too much into the Victini aspect and don't give myself protection, because I might not need it in this matchup, it might just be a useless Pokemon. So if I don't need it, I'm not going to use it. Looks like they're playing Flareon EX, which is a solid deck, I will say that, and I will give them credit. See, and since they played Area 0, I will no longer need my own. And I will be able to discard them once I draw them. It's a great top deck right there. Bidoof is really good for building your bench early, getting stuff set up, and doing the things you just needed to do. That's what it's used for. Is a good play. And honestly, there's not much else I really want to do this turn. I'm just going to use Grasping Draw. That's a lot of good things in one small hand. I just need 1 or 2 cards to swing this game back in my own favor and be able to take a knockout on one of his Pokemon. Which is the really good thing. Because I think one of the best parts about this deck is that I can, in my opinion, I think Fuecoco is going to be able to swing games around because of the way it functions. Great play on his part. And because of his item, he can attack this turn without needing 2 energy. He can just use 1. Because of Sparkling Crystal, which makes Terra's 1 less. Okay, another thing about the pink cards over here, they're called ace specs. You can only use 1 per deck because they're really powerful items that are really useful and can usually win you the game if you use them at the right time. Not quite what I needed. It's not the right one. In order to do this, I am going to have to make some really risky plays. But if risky plays pay off, you usually get rewarded. Even better, I can grab an Arven, which is even more useful because I can also grab this and then another tool, which I may not use now, but I can use in the future, and tools are also really useful. I actually might have to bench Victini, and it's as I said, it's not needed in this matchup, but it can be useful, like in this case scenario where I am hitting more than I need to. It's good. It's always good to hit more than you need to than less, because when you hit less, you can always whiff KOs, and as I said, yeah, it's less. More is better. I'm pretty sure if I draw 1 to 2 things here, I think I can just win. It's really hard to make stuff like Skeledirge work because it's just a really finicky card. But as you can see here, if it works, they can be very deadly cards, especially when used properly. He bosses ordered. What is he gonna boss? Oh, he's gonna boss the thing. See, bossing Entei gives him a turn at least to find some stuff, but it also allows me to help set up more and gives me an extra draw power, because with that I can fleet-footed a card, and oh my goodness, 2 glass trumpets in a row is very good for him. But will it be enough? I don't think it will. I really don't. I don't see how he does this here. I don't see... Oh, I guess that helps him. But that also gives me access back. Oh, no, it doesn't. There are things I can do next turn, which are important. This is about making the right play at the right time. Is what this matchup's going to come down to, because if I make one wrong play, I can just lose this entire thing. And that really would not be good. I don't think this matchup is as tough as it's like seeming, but it's definitely making me think, and that's a good thing. Don't get me wrong, it's never a bad thing to think. I'm just trying to figure out what's the best plan of action here, because there are things that could happen and I could obviously lose, and I think I'm just going to wait and enter. If he takes a knockout here, allows my Skeletors to come back and take a revenge KO, also allowing me to get a Pokegear off and possibly another Skeletor in play if I draw right. If I'm going to be completely honest, this deck is just literally something I pulled out of my butt, and I didn't think it would be working so far, but so far it has. It's been really slow, so I wouldn't recommend it as like an actual deck if you were to use one, but it's honestly, I don't hate it. See, because with him taking the knockout there, I can send this back up, and with the tool I have attached, I can use Counter Catcher in order to let me attack. It's basically for only 1 instead of 2 energies, which is why I included it. It's not, you don't have to have it. I'm using it because of a preference, but if your preference is different than mine, it's fine, no biggie. I don't have... Excuse me. There are plenty of things I can still do here, and I think I'm going to make a move that will probably pay off. I'm going to grab a Super Rod. No, I'm going to grab a Nest Ball. I know I grabbed 2. Sue me. I'm going to go grab a Bidoof. and go grab a Radiant Charizard. The biggest weakness to this deck, I think, would be the retreat cost, because retreat cost being high means it's really hard to get certain Pokemon out of the active spot. But honestly, when you're hitting for 350 damage a turn on EXs, even if it's just something lower like a Flareon, I mean, harder decks to play would be like Charizard because they have like 330, but even though there's still ways around it, that's why I have the maximum belt in here to play against stuff like Charizard, which has 330 HP. The Flareons can go down really easy. The evolutions don't really do much. It attacks through things like Ogerpon EX, which is kind of popular because it doesn't take damage from anything with an ability and stuff like that, which is what makes certain parts of this deck really good, but can also be really bad at the same time. Next turn, however, I do win, I think. As long as he doesn't have certain cards, I just win next turn, which is a very good thing for me. I think he just couldn't get anything going and just kind of fizzled out against it. I don't think he was expecting a deck using Skeledirge, because not really many people have built anything like this. And I think that I have just ran him out of gas. I hit too hard, and I'm only have one prizer, which means it makes it harder for him to take prizes, but a lot of the meta is still 2 prizes because they're really powerful and normally can overpower single prizers like Skeledirge. Because another issue when you're playing Charizard is that Charizard one-shots you without you taking any prizes, which makes it a really hard matchup. The Jolteon. Okay. I don't think it matters too much here. Because what does this do? Oh yeah, no, we just win. The reason I say we just win is because if I retreat here, send up a Terapagos, I do 270 damage, which is enough to take the knockout and win the game. And that, folks, is an example of building a deck and taking into battle. As I said, the adjustments can be made, but I think that was a pretty good showing of what a Skeledirge deck could do. Alright.